Welcome to Topline Hotline.
I got my first real top line. Bought it at the Hotline store. Ossett is Canadian. That's why he likes Bryan Adams. Anyway, welcome to Topline Hotline, everybody. This is that short, informative segment where your hosts, AJ Bruno, Ossett Zaman, and Sam Jacobs, answer your burning questions about go-to-market from the bowels of the Pavilion Slack community and our overall listenership. We're here to help you. We're here to answer questions. We're here to give you our personal take on go-to-market challenges that you're facing. We're excited to do it. Shouldn't last too long. Thanks for giving us your ears. Ossett, what is the question that you posed to us on this Topline Hotline Thursday?
Okay, so again from the Slack channel, we have an interesting question. Good morning. Working on building out a growth plan for the sales org. I understand there are arguments for customer success living in operations and also for it living in sales to build stronger connections with account management for expansion. For this scenario, let's pretend it lives in sales. There's no way I'm going to be able to hire both a CS leader and an account manager leader this year. Long term, sure, but not now. But we're going to invest in CS, and I can make the argument for a leader there. So in the end, we'll have a new business leader and a CS leader. So here's the conundrum. Where do you put the account managers? Do they report to the new business leader or do they report to the CS leader? In this scenario, imagine a 4-person BDR team, 2 sales engineers, 6 new biz reps, 4 account managers, and 10 CSMs. AJ.
I think we've had this, we've had some... This question has come up a lot, and I think the answer remains the same in my mind. But I'm interested to hear for both of you. It's whomever is better suited for it, who's leaning in.
How do you decide that?
I mean, I think there's experience, sure, but if someone is proactively coming to me and saying, here's my plan for AM, and here's what this looks like, and here's the org that I want to design, and how I want to design it, and how these two teams are going to interact, and I know there's going to be a gap because I'm in CS, and you're going to think about the renewal, so here's how I'm going to bring this new business sales leader into the training and enablement, here's how I'm going to have product marketing. That's the leader that I want running my AM team.
Let's say you don't have that person. Let's say this is super proactive human being that doesn't exist in your org, right? Like no one's knocking down your door with like a 7-page business plan. So now you got to decide. Now what are you going to do?
I mean, I don't know. Hire a new team. I guess the thing about that though is like, if you're really trying to put me on the spot in terms of does it sit in sales or does it sit in CS? Which is what you're trying to do. Yeah. I would say you're sitting it in CS is probably where I'm still sitting it. I know we've talked a lot about CS going away and changing, and Lemkin has strong opinions on this in the commercial. So I'm hoping to create debate and argument. Go, Sam.
You're completely wrong. You are so stupid. Your beard is not cool. All I think of you is in the ice plunge.
Oh my
looking
goodness.
Like a little baby boy.
The truth comes out.
No, I'm
Sam
kidding.
Has been waiting for me to say, what do you really think about this thing, Sam?
No, listen, as with most things on this stuff, I tend to agree with AJ, but let me present just a different perspective. And I didn't really like the way that this person asked the question, if you want the honest truth, because they say, but we're going to invest in CS. There's no way I'm going to be able to hire both a CS leader and an account management leader. So but we're going to invest in CS, and I can make an argument for the leader. So in the end, we'll have a new business leader and a CS leader. I find that he just jumped, or she, whatever their gender is, they just jumped over the most interesting part of the question. They just decided that they're going to hire a CS leader first.
Yeah.
My answer to that is maybe you should question that.
Yeah.
I think let's look at your retention rate. So we just did this exercise in our corporate team, right? And we said, do we need a director of CS? And we have a big book of business in corporate, but we looked at our renewal rate, and our renewal rate was not very good. And I knew, and the problem with CS leaders, particularly anybody that's any good, now this person said assume 10 CSM, so they're going to have a team. But most of the time, the CS leader is going to immediately ask for more resources. And because they don't really want to, sometimes they're going to want to have the one-on-one conversation with clients themselves, but oftentimes they don't. And so we made the decision that we will have a head of CS at some point, but the first hire I was going to make is basically a director of account management. And really what I was saying is, because our renewal rate wasn't quite strong enough, I wanted to focus on sales, right? If it's below 60%, if your gross retention is below 60%, you're not really in a subscription world right now for whatever the reason. It's all going to be new sales. Every renewal is going to be new sales. You're still going to have to resell the value. So I think the more interesting question is, should you hire a CS leader at all, or should you hire a head of account management? In that world, I would say if you have strong retention and there's, because the product is strong, then that would be an argument for me to hire CS. But if you don't have strong retention and you're worried about product efficiencies, then I would hire an account management. As to, you've assumed that you're hiring a head of CS, where should account management sit? It's a toss-up, like AJ said. I come to the same conclusion. Basically, maybe CS, but I really, 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 really underscore really the reason that everybody's down on CS is that, from my perspective, or one reason why everybody's down on CS, is that there's this assumed idea that we have lots of room in the commercial organization for people that aren't very good at commercial engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that Chris Degnan from Snowflake or Lemkin are challenging this is because they're saying, maybe we don't, maybe we don't. Maybe everybody's in sales, no matter what you want to call it. Now, Nick Mehta, we should have him on. He can disagree with me, but that's why. So if I'm hesitating about where the account management person should report, it's because I want to know that the CS leader has commercial acumen. I appreciate that they're focused on retention, they're focused on member health, they're focused on engagement. That's great. But if I have a small company, I just don't have any room in the revenue org for somebody that is completely oblivious to revenue. So
that's interesting.
That's what I think.
You know, as you guys were talking, I didn't come in with a very specific point of view on where it should sit. But as you guys are talking, I'm thinking it should actually sit in sales. Because if you think about it, if you look back to the early internet era, let's say the 1970s to the 2000s, you would find salespeople and sales teams employed the island model from an organizational design perspective a lot more than post 2000, when things went to the cloud and it allowed for us to bring down deal sizes, bring down complexity of deals, and create an assembly line of sales commercial people. And so I think we just feel like everybody can only do one thing. And it's like, well, back in the day, you had sales leaders who were absolutely amazing at new business and farming. And those two things aren't that different. Like, there's a little bit of difference, but they're not like fundamentally different jobs. And so I feel like a new business person, a leader, should be able to context switch that little bit to be like, I'm now talking in context of account management, but would probably be able to create more energy, more momentum towards the goal of expansion and renewals going deeper and wider than maybe the status quo CS people that we have at the market right now. As Jason said rightfully, a great CS person moves the needle fundamentally. There's just very few of those out there. So maybe it sits in sales, according to me. I don't know.
I think what you just said is I think there's just so many people. Like, again, we talk about ZERP, and we assume that it was just 2020. It was not just 2020. We had extremely low interest rates for the entire teens of the 21st century, right? And so there's just so many commercial leaders, many of whom I know personally, that all they understand is benchmarks. All they understand is this is what everybody else is doing, and they don't have the context of this is what everybody else is doing in a world of free capital, where interest rates are artificially low, and this is how big teams need to be. And so when we were coming of age, it was one CS for every 2 million in ARR. And then at some point, I started getting arguments from people saying it was one CS for 750,000 ARR, or they would abandon the concept of ARR per CS completely, and they would start talking about the number of accounts, as if I give a hoot about the number of accounts when my balance sheet and my checking account don't have a point of view on the number of accounts. All they have a point of view on is, are we making more money than we're spending? And then back in the day, in the 70s and the 80s, money wasn't free. It was expensive. And you just didn't have, and there was less developed economies. So there were fewer jobs for this, and you had to be better at the job that you had. And I tend to agree with you, Asad, that like we're in this world where we assume that every small activity needs a separate FTE. And I think we should question that.
Yeah. AJ, what do you think about this?
Well, on which part of what
The
Sam
over
said?
systemization of commercial teams. Let's think of it from that perspective, where everything is a specific role, simplified. Have we oversimplified to a point where there's no cohesion? The customer experience is horrible. Like, I'm speaking to 7 people. I'm a small company buying pretty basic product. I've spoken to 7 people. I don't even know who to send an email to at this point. Like, have we over systemized this thing, and we should go back to believing that people can walk and chew gum at the same time?
Yeah. So I think the system there's 2 words that I think of: systemization, but there's also specialization.
Specialization is a better word for what I was saying.
And specialization has the economies of scale that we're talking about. And I do believe on some level, we've always kind of been like that. But that's because the systems thinking that we've built, we're not all suited to actually build that. We don't have experience building that. And so it goes back to what we talked about in the earlier episode of Topline, which you all listened to. And Sam made a great point around this, which is just that you have we have to have people around the table that are experienced, and you have to have the know-how in the organization, and you have to recognize if you don't have the know-how. So if we're going back and talking about these CS leader, AM leader, I think the original point the question was making is that they already had the CS leader in mind that they wanted to hire. And so that's what I think they ultimately wanted to do. And hopefully you guys got some of that.
Right, exactly. No, we did get that. And that's my whole point. It's like, oh, I needed to build a team. It's like, do you need to build a team?
Yeah, question what you're doing and how you're doing it. We could have just played the episode of Topline, and then we would have answered this question.
I think this is a great Topline hotline. I like a 10-minute one just to give people a little bit more meat on the bone for their Thursday. Asad, why don't you tell us who we all are and what we should do next and end the episode for us?
But you need to sing it. You need to sing it like Dan did.
You know what used to be amazing when I first came to Canada, when I first joined the workforce, I was like 5 years in, people would like to go for karaoke. And I didn't know any of these songs. It used to be like a work event, and everybody had like their favorite songs, and everybody loved going to it. And I was like, I don't understand any of these songs. What is this? So I'm not much of a singer. Okay, that's the episode.
Well, the canon for Canadians is what? Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, Bare Naked Ladies, Bryan Adams, and Celine Dion.
Yeah, so Celine Dion's from here. Look at that. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for another fantastic episode of Topline Hotline. This is us signing off. AJ Bruno III, CEO of QuarterPath, founder as well. Sam Jacobs, founder, CEO of Pavilion, who some of you are hanging out with in Arizona right now. And me, Asad Zaman, CEO of Sales Talent Agency. Give us 5 stars, say a prayer for us. I don't know, do nice things for us. Post about us on LinkedIn.
I love the say a prayer. That's a great idea.
Say a prayer for us, guys. Say a prayer. Okay.
I'm going to say a prayer right now. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks for listening to Topline Hotline.